Okay, confession time. ChatGPT doesn't make me faster. It actually slows me down, and I haven't been using it a lot. There, I said it. Welcome back to another episode of Heart Before Cut. Today, I want to get real about AI. It's time to really talk about this because so many people around me feel the same way, but no one is talking about it. So let's dig in. Look, it all starts out simple enough. I think I'll just ask it for help outlining a post from a transcript or coming up with repurposing ideas or assisting with some research. And 2 hours later, I'm still refining my prompts and requests. It is insane. You know that feeling like every reply feels like it's almost there? There's that feeling like if you just try one more time, it will be better. But nope, just more time wasted. And it almost feels addictive. And what I have found is that at the end of the day, if I step away from ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity and I simply go over to my whiteboard and I spend 10 minutes writing things down, I get so much more done in such less time. I guess it's kind of like these dopamine loops, right? It's like the Instagram 5 minutes effect. Like I'm just going to go in for 5 minutes, but then you end up spending 2 hours scrolling. It's the same kind of thing. You're just constantly tweaking your prompt. If I just ask it this, if I just do this, it will finally give me the right result. And it never actually does. There's like this illusion of thinking versus actually thinking. But as I said, in the end, I just trash it all. I go to my whiteboard and I do it in like 10 minutes. And the problem I'm seeing everywhere is that too many people are using AI in a way that really feels productive, but is actually redundant and a complete time suck. And I really do get why people use it. It is addictive. It's hard to get away from all the people screaming about it on social media, right? Like on LinkedIn, anywhere you go, everyone's telling you, look at all this and look at what I'm doing. And AI can 10 times what you're already doing. And AI is out for your job. And prompt engineering is the future. And if you're not using ChatGPT or if you're not using Gemini, where are you? Or the future is here, you're failing. So there's a lot of this kind of stress about using these things. And every day, someone is launching something new, and it's almost always creates this kind of, effect where we just constantly feel like we're lagging behind. And the real value that I find from AI isn't in any of this. In fact, as I said, it almost always is just a frustrating experience. And what I've done is I went back to my whiteboard and I started thinking about, okay, where do I actually get the most value of using AI? And I was able to actually split it into two sections. There's the stuff that is a time suck that makes you feel like you're doing stuff, but it's actually just redundant, not working, it's not good, but you've managed to waste 2 or 3 hours a day. And there's the stuff that really helps me that I feel like, wow, AI is incredible. And I want to talk about that because I want to show you how I use AI and how it helps me do things I couldn't do before and where I have decided to stop using AI, what I'm not using AI to do anymore. In fact, I've actually reduced my work with ChatGPT and Gemini almost completely. First, let's talk about how to know if you're using AI in a way that isn't helping you, because it might be a little hard to identify. The first thing you might notice is that you keep tweaking the prompt. And that's something that just keeps happening all the time. Like you're constantly tweaking and asking it for other stuff. The second thing is you can't tell what's wrong and you're not sure what's not working, but it always feels like it's almost there, but it isn't. Then there's the fact that nothing is ever finished, meaning you feel busy, you feel like you're doing stuff, but you never actually have a tangible thing in your hand. The third thing is that when you look at the output you're getting from ChatGPT or from Gemini, you clearly can see that you would never use it as is, meaning whatever its output is, you're going to have to edit it, you're going to have to retweak it, you're going to have to do some real big work on it in order for it to be actually usable. And the fourth thing is, and this is more a personal thing, is that you actually feel relieved when you stop using it. Now, maybe you haven't noticed this before, but that's something to just think about next time you're in ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity and you've spent hours kind of working on something and you step away. Ask yourself, how do you feel right now? Because for me and for many of my colleagues and people I've spoken to, when they step away, they're like, oh, they feel tired because you've been doing all this kind of work, but not really work, and there's nothing to show for it. And in the end, it's maybe a one-liner, and it's not something that you can feel proud of. But let's talk about where I do use ChatGPT. So I use it for minor, small tasks like grammar fixes, summarizing any of my messy notes because I'm messy, condensing long transcripts into bullets that are just easier for me to consume, turning a rough outline into a structure that is readable, that I can read, stress testing my ideas. That's actually one of my favorite things. So what I'll do is I will put something into ChatGPT, maybe a full blog post or an email that I've just written, and I will ask it, where might this argument fall apart? What questions would someone reading this email still have? What are things I haven't answered? What are things that people might push back on with this page? So again, the idea is that I'm not using it for big thinking. I'm using it for small, minor tasks to help me really sort out through things and also really stress test what I'm already doing myself. And one other thing that I love doing with it is also just asking it for reminders. Like, what's this bias called again? Or I will literally write something like, what is the cognitive bias where you are presented with too many options and you don't make any decision? It's anchoring, but just as an example, right? So you can use these general purpose AI platforms in order to do very specific tasks that help you organize stuff or double check your thinking or your strategy, but not doing the thinking, the planning, or the strategizing for you. By the way, it's essentially taking what you've created and tweaking it a little based on very specific prompts. And you have to be very specific on what it's not allowed to do. For example, do not add context from elsewhere or pull from the web. Just use the exact same things that I gave you. Now, some people might tell you all you have to do is just create better prompts. But here's what I think. If I have to change my entire role to become a prompt engineer, I'm wasting my time. That's not my role. I'm not trying to be a prompt engineer. I'm trying to be strategic. I'm trying to plan stuff. And I don't want to waste my time tweaking prompts or asking people or commenting on LinkedIn prompt to get someone's prompt. That is a waste of my time. So where do I get the biggest benefit from AI? Because don't get me wrong, I do, and I love it, and I use it every day, and I use it at work, and I use it in my private life. There are so many incredible ways to utilize AI, and there's also very specific AI tools. The real shift is understanding that you're not using AI in order to think for you or strategize for you. You're using it to create. That is where I flourish with AI. Using AI to help create things that I couldn't before. For example, I am not a designer in any way. In fact, I can't even draw stick figures. It's actually quite embarrassing. And I have big ideas. And when I'm planning a presentation or a webinar, or I'm planning a workshop for teams, or I'm getting on stage and I want to plan this whole new slide deck, or I have this new strategy in mind for a client, I have lots of ideas. And what happens is I can write a full story and I can write all of my ideas down. But then what I need is to actually get someone to design them. And that's where it gets problematic because I don't know how to visualize what I wrote. So I actually use a tool called Gamma. This was an incredible recommendation from Will Reynolds, a good friend of mine who is just doing incredible things with AI, and you should definitely follow him if you're on LinkedIn. And he basically suggested this incredible flow. So what I do is I use a tool called Whisper and I talk to it, essentially. I just brain dump everything that I'm thinking about, the story arc, what I want to talk about, where we're going, what I'm going to present, all that good stuff. And then it transcribes it for me and I throw it into Gamma. And Gamma does this incredible thing where it visualizes everything. Like everything I just said. It is so cool. And there's so many tools like that, like Napkin AI and also Notebook LM. So Notebook LM is another tool that I absolutely love because if you throw in all of your notes, you can actually click on create slide deck. Now, am I going to use these visualizations and these slide decks exactly as they are from Gamma or Notebook LM? No, even though Gamma's creations are incredible. If you've been following me on LinkedIn, you've probably seen quite a lot of the visuals I use on social from Gamma, but not for my slide deck. But now there's a visual representation of what I was trying to say. So if I'm trying to draw a framework, if I'm talking about a psychological trigger, if I'm talking about the ACT framework and I'm trying to explain how people use things or how they think or how they feel about buying things, suddenly Gamma has produced a whole visualization for me and I can pass that on to our designer and say, look, here's everything I'm going to say. Here's what I produced with Gamma. Now go ahead and create it in our language, in our brand, create with the examples that we have from our own client work. But now there's something that I'm passing on that I know it's going to cut time. The designer isn't going to have to spend 3 hours on a call with me trying to extract stuff from my brain because I can't explain what I mean. So actually having a very dedicated tool that uses AI in a way that amplifies or substitutes my inability to do something. So again, big thinker cannot design. This is an incredible way to use AI. Let me tell you about a few other tools that I absolutely love. So Notebook LM is one I just mentioned, and I don't just use it for slide decks. I use it to get through a lot of research because a lot of our work at Get Uplift focuses on psychological triggers, on consumer psychology, how people buy. I read a ton of studies about marketing, studies about psychology, how our brain thinks, how we make decisions. And sometimes it's really hard to get through all of that. So I use all of these papers, I put them in Notebook LM, and Notebook LM summarizes it for me. And it creates battle cards for me, and it creates Q&As for me, and it helps me figure out a new outline for a blog post. And it is just so smart. So Notebook LM is a great way to take big pieces of content and summarize it for you and make it tangible and easier to understand. My other tool that I absolutely love is Speechify. I've been using it for 2 years now, and it has completely changed the way I read. I have ADHD and I have a very hard time going through content. And sometimes I'll notice that I read the same paragraph over and over again, and I haven't actually understood anything. So Speechify is this great AI tool where you will upload any content. It could be a blog post, it could be a book, it could be, well, which was, by the way, how I wrote my entire book. I couldn't read my own book, so I uploaded it into Speechify and it read it back to me. You can choose a bazillion voices, like you can even use Snoop's voice. But what's incredible is you get someone reading it back to you and you can hear it. And not only is that cool, when you listen, you can listen faster. So I'm not actually reading at my regular speed. I'm listening to books and I'm listening to studies or articles at 1.5 or 2 times the speed I would have gotten through if I was just reading it with my own eyes. So Speechify is an incredible tool. Highly recommend using it. And I also mentioned Whisper. Whisper is just phenomenal, walking around and talking to it. Again, lots of ideas in this head. lots of things. And sometimes I'm even having a conversation with someone on Zoom, or I'm doing a webinar, or I'm on a podcast and someone asks me a question. Whisper just records everything. And then I have it transcribed and I look at it and I can quickly create a blog post or a LinkedIn post, or I suddenly, get a spark of an idea for a slide deck. So these tools aren't time sucks. They're not making me sit there and try and think and trying to get it to think for me and trying to get it to strategize for me. It's essentially taking what I'm already doing and making me 10 times faster. My production level, the stuff that I'm putting out there, it's just happening so much faster now because I'm using AI tools as a way to amplify what I'm already doing, which is incredible. So to summarize, if you're using a general purpose AI and you feel like you spend hours on it and it's never quite right, and you always have to spend more time fixing it, tweaking it, editing it, it's probably not the right thing for you. But if you find a tool that turns one thing into another, it repurposes your blog post into LinkedIn posts. It actually helps you turn your entire transcripts or thoughts into something more tangible that you can use. That is great. It creates a design for you. Napkin AI, by the way, visualizes entire things. It's so cool. So turning something that you've already thought about into something that you can use, fantastic. If it removes a skill gap, for example, like me, you don't know how to design, this is a great way to use AI. If it produces something tangible that you can use, that is a great use of AI. Okay, so yes, this is how I use AI. I think on my own, I plan on my own, and then I let AI specific tools help me build things. So, what are your favorite ways of using AI? I'd love to know. You can comment down below. You can visit me on YouTube or on LinkedIn and connect with me. Thank you so much for listening to another Heart Before Cart episode. I will see you next week.